Are there any banks that are starting to take advantage of blockchain technology?
Yeah, it's very interesting. Like what I've noticed in the financial sector is that initially when Bitcoin came around, like, you know, just like any new crazy technology, like they were just making fun of it. And then especially because of the hacks, like imagine like the first exchange where you can go and like convert dollars into Bitcoins. The first big one was called Mt. Gox. It was in Japan. And there was a major problem with it. It was like run by, I would say, people who weren't that professional, and then they actually lost a lot of money of their users because there was some hack that they tried to cover up, and it went under, it went bankrupt, and people lost a lot of money there. So everyone used that as an example to say Bitcoin wouldn't work, which is like saying one bank shut down, so the entire technology is broken, right? Like there will be other exchanges, there will be, so, and then interestingly, I would say maybe 2 years back or a year and a half back, the conversation shifted from Bitcoin to blockchain. So blockchain is the underlying technology, and Bitcoin is kind of like, you can think of it as like one application, although it's not entirely fair to Bitcoin, because as you saw like with the mining stuff, that the currency is actually required for incentives for running the network. So you can't really have a blockchain without having any incentives for people to actually like run the system. But interestingly, banks love blockchain. So now there are all these conferences where all the banks are there and they're like, yeah, blockchains are amazing. And they're trying to figure out ways to kind of like have private versions of this. So it's a blockchain which is like gives you certain benefits like auditability, you can roll back things, and but they just want to have a blockchain between like, let's say 6 banks, not like this open permissionless system like Bitcoin is. And there might be a space for it. Like I think of it as like how there's the public internet that anyone can connect to, but then there are these secure company networks that, you know, large companies operate and you can't really get access to it. So there's probably a space for private blockchains as well, but that is what banks are most interested in right now. And I personally feel that this also gave banks ammunition against Bitcoin. They're like, hey, blockchain is like the real thing. Bitcoin, yeah, no, I don't know if that's ever going to happen.
Great. Any other questions? Yes. Yeah, Chris.
Can you just talk a little more about how the same technology that powers Bitcoin, what you talked about with the linear data stream, also can store my data, and how can it do so many different things?
Yeah, sure. So I think at a high level, so we talked about this a little bit, that you need some party or something to decide what is the reality, right? So in terms of the currency thing, we saw how banks usually say that, hey, yes, Muneeb has $20 in his account, and we take the word of the bank, right? If you apply this analogy to Twitter, any content that is on Twitter or my ownership of @Muneeb is basically there because Twitter says it's there, right? Like Twitter has it somewhere in their databases, right? And they say that, yes, the person who logs in with @Muneeb and a password has this thing, but they can take it away at any time. Like they do it all the time. They shut down accounts, they censor tweets, like they cut down access to applications. Like I think when they bought Periscope, they basically stopped giving access to their competitor and then bought Periscope. So it's like Twitter is like kind of like playing God in the middle, right? Like, and what this technology does is that it replaces any company by this network where you can go to the network to decide what is the reality. So the example would be, I claim that I registered @Muneeb, right? But now there is a public record of that in a transaction in the blockchain, where now I was able to register it because nobody else registered it before me, and that is the protocol, and now I have it, and it's linked to my private key, right? And then I will have like a pointer to the rest of my data, Right? That's how our system is designed. So imagine the blockchain only comes in for conflict resolution and for basically deciding who owns what online. It's kind of like property rights, right? Like the currency is a form of property, but you can have other forms of property as well, right? So one form of property that I have is my data, but I'm not putting all the data in the blockchain. I'm just putting a pointer to my data in the blockchain.
But where is the data?
So the way we designed our system is we treat like all of these like cloud computing providers as like dumb hard drives,
Okay.
right? Like imagine like I have my laptop over here. I don't even know who's the manufacturer of the hard drive,
Okay.
right? And I can copy my data from my laptop to my iMac. Again, I don't know who is the manufacturer of the hard drive.
The hard drive in the computer.
In the computer.
Yeah.
Like you don't know. Nobody knows,
Nobody
right?
knows,
Like,
yeah.
it's dumb hard drives. I don't care who made it. I'm just like putting my data there, right? Similarly, the cloud providers, the Google G Drive or the Dropbox or Amazon S3, it shouldn't matter where you're putting your data. They should be like dumb hard drives, and that's how we treat them. So
So you're decoupling my email for G Drive, like my identity with the data.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
the
so
data
it's-
is being stored somewhere. It's just
the
nobody
data
knows.
is being but what we are doing is we are putting encrypted data blobs in your Dropbox account, right? But Dropbox has no they don't know what is this data. Like you're just putting like this gibberish big file on Dropbox,
Got it.
and there's a pointer to that in a file from the blockchain, right? And all of this is signed by you, right? So when someone who actually has access to read it, they can actually verify that this was signed by you. So this is actually like way more secure than the current internet. Like let me give you an example of a blog post. Right now you would go on Medium and you would just publish your blog post, right? Like, it's very similar to the same thing. Medium now has all the content. You have to log into Medium, and people used to run their own blogs, and they actually used to enjoy that. They would feel that they have more control over their blog, and they can do that. Now imagine like an even more secure or more decentralized system where to publish a blog post, all you have to do is like sign it and just put it in your Dropbox. But there is a way for people to load the blog post at muneeb.id, right? Or whatever. So it's just like their domain names, like facebook.com or, on the traditional internet, we built that for blockchain. So there's like domains like .id, .app, .something else. So imagine like going to twitter.app, but what you're seeing is actually tweets by people that is being read from their cloud storage and just displayed exactly how Twitter would display it, right? At the infrastructure level, the technology is very similar because Twitter has a data center, and they have multiple data centers, and they serve the data to you whenever you go to twitter.com. We use the same infrastructure. It's like all these data centers of Dropbox and Amazon and Google and whoever else. But now these companies have no control. So you load the data, you display it in this new browser in a way that it's a direct connection between the user who owns it and like the person who's using the app.
That's cool. That makes a lot of sense.
So this was like, by the way, this would like take an entire lecture on the architecture, but this is like a very quick summary or a compressed form of the information. So I hope that made sense.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Muneeb, for coming by and giving us this talk. Really great. Give a clap. Yeah. Awesome. Sweet. And where can people find you? You have a website or
yeah, so
right here?
If you have more comments, like especially people who are watching online, you can just tweet them at Muneeb.
Great.
And our website is blockstack.org. Think of it as like we are working on the next browser, but browser is like just the interface. We had to invent the new internet in the background, like, and all of that is like something we have built over the last 2 years, and it's open source. If you're a developer, you can actually just like join in our public Slack channel. It has over 1,000 developers working on this, and yeah, we are extremely excited about what the future of the internet is going to look like.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks so much, brother.